Alright, so I'm here talking about the Octavian Nothing series. First one's The Astonishing Life of Octavian Nothing, Traitor to the Nation, Volume 1, The Pox Party. The second one's Astonishing Life of Octavian Nothing, Traitor to the Nation, Volume 2, The Kingdom of Waves, both by M.T. Anderson. And the first book's about 350 pages. I'll show you the cover here. Pretty standard text size. They are pretty long books, but they're multi-genre and they include letters and journals and stuff like that. So they're quick reads, they're paced really well, so it's not like they drag on at all. Just a brief plot summary. The first book, it follows the life of Octavian. He's a young slave who's not really in prison, but he's kept at the College of Lucidity, where he's a subject for an experiment. What the people are doing is they're giving him the finest classical education to find out if African Americans are indeed equal to European people. So he's at this college, and he eventually finds out, he thought he was a prince, and that's why he was there, but then he finds out that he's the subject of an experiment. So he finds that out. Bad stuff happens. He tries to run away. Eventually he does get caught. He was in Boston for a while, but he gets caught and brought back. And then he runs away again, and that's where we go to book number 2. Him and his professor, Dr. Trefesus, I think that's how you say it. The second book kind of follows them, where they go to the free world, and Octavian tries his hand at being a soldier for the British Army, which is different than what we've been reading in our other text sets. And the second book just kind of sees Octavian mature before our eyes and kind of get cynical, and it's just, you're very much in his head. Book reviews, I love these books. Very, very well written. As I mentioned, they are long, but I feel like the teaching potential is endless. They're both multi-genre works. The first book, not only does it have his journal entries and stuff like that, but it's got letters from not even him, but people he met while he was on the lam. And it's got scientific journals, it's got letters from congressmen to other people. So it's really neat to teach students about the multi-genre form, which is very, very effective, I think, at giving like a holistic approach to a book. And the second book, same thing, multi-genre. So it kind of helps students see how switching it up can not only keep a reader's interest, but it can give you different perspectives and make a more complete novel. Another thing is the way the books are written. They're written in the style of the colloquial style of the time. And it means a few things. First of all, it means it's going to be kind of difficult to read. The vocabulary is more difficult than what we're used to in young adult literature. And the sentence structure, you're going to have a lot of kind of gaudy sentences with archaic words. It takes a while to get used to, but once you do, you find yourself really engrossed in the time period, and it's very authentic. And I enjoyed that about that. I think it's a really they're good books to show students how writing in the style of what you're covering, whether it be the time period or the type of people that you're covering, it can really help lend an authentic voice to that book. Another thing, the symbolism is great. There's symbolism, there's like allusions and all that, but it's very subtle. There's also a lot of classical allusions which can draw some connections. You could have students look back at the books he was reading, and obviously these are conscious choices by M.T. Anderson to include these, so there's obviously going to be a connection. So you could have students research them and kind of compare and contrast the classics that Octavian is talking about to the book in itself. Not only for its literature content, but its historical content is great. Obviously, you can see he put a lot of research into these books. It's very authentic. You never once really question the authenticity, maybe, of the books. But historically, some questions you could raise. I really like that he was fighting for the British, which is a big contrast from Forge, another book that will be discussed on the website. But it's interesting seeing it from that perspective. It can kind of give you see how the British lure these slaves in with the promise of freedom, but then you see the ulterior motives. So I think that could be a really interesting historical thing to see what were the advantages of luring these slaves in, and how did these slaves help not only strategically win the war, but in terms of like mental warfare, how the British recruiting these slaves would instill fear of uprising and insurrection among the American colonists. So that's a very interesting thing. And then also just the Revolutionary War through a slave's perspective and who they would be rooting for. You know, I think that's a very interesting question to examine, because we only see, you know, a white colonist perspective, but these are very interesting because they kind of see what the slaves were looking at in terms of what was at stake in this war. So overall, great books. I loved them. Lot of teaching potential. Obviously, you're not going to be able to breeze through these books, so if you were to teach them, you're going to have to probably devote a good amount of time to them and give them questions that can really anchor it and get students in there, frame them well, because obviously right away students are probably going to be groaning at the sentence structure and the vocabulary. But just to frame the books well could really help them be effective to teach. So Octavian Nothing series, great books, a lot of teaching potentials, highly recommend them.